Hi there, good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Deidre Martinez, CEO of the Sheboygan County Chamber of Commerce, and we are going to begin our fourth in our series of 6 candidate forums that we've made available to the public today. Our next guests are running for City of Sheboygan Aldermanic District 7, and so we're going to get an opportunity to talk with incumbent Grazia Perrella as well as challenger Juan Perez over the next 30 to 45 minutes or so with a variety of questions that folks from the community have sent in to us in advance. With that, first what we'll do is give each of you an opportunity to do an introduction of yourselves. You'll have 2 minutes. We do have a timekeeper, so she's just here to give you gentle reminders to make sure we keep things moving forward. And then we'll go back and forth giving, as best to my ability, equal playing time for each of you to answer different questions as we move forward. So with that, Mr. Perez, if I could ask you if you would like to give an introduction of yourself first, and you'll get us started.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Deidre. My name is Juan Perez, and I've been a resident of Sheboygan for about 40 years. My wife and I have been married for 50 years, which is a good time, a good long time. We have 3 children, one of which was born here in Sheboygan. And we are a small business owner, and by small I mean very small. We just have a mom and pop operation. I've been in public service before. I've served you as school board trustee, school board president. I've served you as mayor. I've served you as alderman, and I look forward to serving you again if elected.
Thank you so much. Alder Perrella.
Yes. Thank you, Deidre, and thank you, the Chamber of Commerce. I know this is a long run today, so in your busy schedule, I really appreciate that. My name is Grazia Perrella. I'm running for my 3rd term on the Common Council. I was elected in 2021, and I have been re-elected in 2023. For those that don't know me, and to explain my accent, I'm actually Italian-American. I moved to the U.S. in 2003 when I got married to my husband, Hans. And we moved to Sheboygan in 2013 when I was hired by Sargento. After that, well, I got a bachelor degree here in the U.S. In food science and technology, then a master's degree in global development. I felt compelled after several years at Sargento and in the private industry, food industry in general, to move to shift to the nonprofit. And I worked for almost 3 years with, I served as a director of operations for Family Service Association, a nonprofit in town, which I consider a little hidden gem. However, I also took a break in June to finish my my doctoral degree in public administration that I'm working on right now. I live on 8th Street since we purchased our home there. I live there with a dog and cat. I have 3 stepchildren, 4 grandchildren, and 1 on the way. I love Sheboygan. It is my home now, and I thank you very much.
Wonderful, thank you. We will now move into the question and answer portion of the forum. So we will begin with you, Alderperson Perrella. What is your stance on ensuring that alderpersons are present and accountable to their constituents? There's been a lot of discussion about absenteeism in Common Council meetings and elected officials not being present and available to their constituents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so of course that is not acceptable. That is the #1 responsibility for any elder person to be attending meetings and to be responsive to constituents and to be able to take this responsibility very seriously. However, I really don't think that has been a big issue. The problem has been that one of the elder person has been sick for a long time, and yes, there could have been different ways to address that, in the sense that even the person in question could have made a different decision, but I know that they have made their best effort to be present. And the funny thing about this situation, you say that you have heard several complaints, which I don't challenge, but the funny thing is that I have not received any complaint by anybody from that district, which is kind of unusual. I just want to make that clear because it seems that that district has been very unhappy. However, again, I personally have not received any complaint from a resident of that district. Does that justify that perhaps they didn't feel served even if they didn't reach out or speak up? No. But I do not know how much that has been actually a problem for the residents that have not been felt served, as we also pitch in as other people with each other, and the mayor does the same, and the city staff is very responsive whenever we reach out to them. So I don't know how much really, I cannot speak to the degree of the problem because I have not been, it has not been addressed with me, but it's number one responsibility. You have to be there. We have to make sure that we are there always. If we can connect remotely, it is even better because it will allow us to participate even when we physically cannot participate at the last moment.
Thank you. Juan?
Thank you, Deidre. There's two ways of being responsive to the constituents. The one is to actually sit physically in council chambers, listen to the information, ask questions, and make a decision, or whether a decision is tabled or not. And that's important. And I'll get back to that after I say the other way is you have to be responsive to your constituents by being responsive when they call you, by actually dealing with some of the problems that they have in their neighborhood, by dealing with some of the problems that they have with other neighbors, by dealing with the problems they have with the way the street is not maintained, the trees are not maintained. So those two ways are very important to me. As for distant participation in city council meetings, we have to remember that that particular policy was implemented by the state as an exception, a temporary exception, and my understanding was, to the COVID pandemic. And that was because people were getting sick. Some people were actually dying. So they wanted to make sure that business was being conducted by the city and the county and so forth. So they made an exception to the open meetings law, which requires you to be present at the meeting. Now the problem with distance participation is technology. Not everybody has a computer. Not everybody's computer knowledgeable. There's too many technical problems. I've even tried it myself. I can't deal with it. It just doesn't work as good as it should. So in another way that it's not good, that I'm not in favor of, is it's subject to misuse and abuse. If you run for alderman, unless it's a very good reason why you shouldn't be present, you need to be present. You need to show up. And if you don't show up, well, then your votes are not going to be counted. The misuse part of it comes, okay. That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Time is up.
We will have lots more time to get into more things. Thank you. Let's transition a little bit, and especially coming from the Chamber of Commerce perspective and the businesses that we serve in our membership. Economic development and tourism have made significant waves in positive and not so positive ways over the last few years. So when we think about Sheboygan County's growth as certainly a tourism destination. We also know that tourism dollars help to reduce the strain on our local economy and our local community members because we're bringing dollars in from other places, right? We want to inject other people's money into our economy and reduce the financial burden on residents. We also know that we have a destination marketing organization that the city has contracted with for several years, and in fiscal year 2023 they received somewhere around $1.8 million. About 47% of that went to salaries and benefits. Do you believe that the contract is that the city is holding that destination marketing organization accountable to the expectations in which we would have for an organization that receives roughly $2 million a year from the city of Sheboygan through room tax dollars? And we'll start with you on this one, Juan.
I don't have a lot of information on that. That's a particular subject you would actually have to keep up with. But I understand that either the chamber or Visit Sheboygan. I assume that's what you were referring to.
They would be the
Visit Sheboygan. They actually get room tax money, and I think that the room tax money is targeted towards promotion of tourism, promotion and development of tourism. So my feeling is, as far as they getting room tax money and lessening the burden, financial burden on the taxpayer, it has always been an excellent idea. Now the percentage may be a concern. Should they get a little bit more percentage, or should they get a little less percentage based on their performance? I don't think that the council is in a position to evaluate that performance. I think that performance should be evaluated by the business owners. So, and they in turn should refer back to the council, address the council, and make their suggestions and recommendations.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, I think that such an organization should be held more accountable. And I would like the city to review that agreement and that collaboration. And the reason I'm saying that is because a DMO, in this case, I don't know if it is always the case, but in Sheboygan, a DMO is a non-profit organization. And with that comes a degree of transparency that should be demanded. And when I look at, I try to understand better, for example, just recently actually, I was looking into, let me see if I know any of the board members of the organization. Because typically, I start there, then I try to keep in touch with people. That's my modus operandi, right? So when I can. And I wasn't able to find who the board members of the organizations are, which is kind of odd, right? And not because there is nothing bad with that. I'm not alluding to that. I'm alluding to the fact that there is not full transparency. There is not a way, for example, to say, okay, let me see how did they measure their resources and the performance of their resources, the investment of taxpayers' money that they have put into the activities of this year. How did they measure it? I would love to know that. So that can be improved in many, many ways. I think that the city needs to get a little bit more involved with that and be a little bit stronger and assertive with getting responses on that front.
Thank you. And we're going to dig a little bit more into the economic development space. So in I want to say roughly 7 or 8 years now, we've had big chunk of property on the south side of Sheboygan called the South Point Business Park, which has gone completely undeveloped, and at this point it doesn't, or we are unaware of any developers who might be interested. It's been a lot of years, and we'll start with you, Alder Perrella. What would you do differently moving forward to stimulate economic development in that business park that the city put a lot of time and investment into so many years back?
Yeah, I wish I had a nice answer for you on that, because I know that has been a problem. We have to admit our problems when we have them, and that has been, we are paying, basically we have not seen any return on our investment there, and we have missed some opportunities of development. Am I optimistic about that happening in the future? Yes. But do we need to do more? Yes. Now I think this administration is right now in a position of strength due to good city staff that we have in place. We also hope soon to have a new director of planning and development, which is crucial as far as looking for development and new businesses. So definitely we need to do more to attract businesses, but it is also that kind of chicken and egg situations: workforce, housing, businesses, employees, workforce availability. So it's a situation that it's multifaceted. You don't find a solution, or you don't have a magic bullet to solve it at once, but definitively, as we are doing already, we have to be more assertive with trying to attract more businesses, perhaps with more collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce, and perhaps with strengthening our collaboration with the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation and the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, not because we are not doing it that, but we have to focus even more on that. But at the same time, address the issue of housing and making our city even more attractive, because all these aspects will inevitably have an impact on business development.
Thank you. Juan.
Thank you, Deidre. I'm certainly not an expert on economic development, but one of the things that I see happening now that I think should be addressed as quickly as possible and effectively as possible is to hire a community development director. A director who's well-trained, who knows his or her job, works with the Chamber of Commerce, works with Visit Sheboygan, works with anybody that has an interest in helping economic development. Unless that happens, there's a vacuum at City Hall. And when there's a vacuum, somebody's got to fill it, which means they're doing two jobs, and they shouldn't be. We need a qualified community development director, which we haven't had, and until they get that, we're going to have some problems. We're having problems with the TIFs because of that too. And we're having problems with economic development. We're having problems with people not wanting to develop here. There's all kinds of reasons why people develop anywhere, and it's because there's money. There's a market for it. They don't come here, most of them don't come here because they love Sheboygan. They come here because there's money to be made. So how do we encourage that? How do we work with these people? How do we give them not a tax abatement, but a tax break? Or maybe loosen up on the city code a little bit. The city code can be very restrictive and prohibitive of business development. In fact, it is. I know that for a fact. So we need to kind of look at the big picture, look at the big problem that we have, and address it together collectively, come up with solutions, even if it's just temporary, but at least come up with some kind of solution. And I'm all for that.
Thank you. And to dig, even further into the economic development space, and we've heard housing, obviously workforce, these are areas of concern for our community, and specifically as it relates to economic development. And Juan, we'll start with you on this round. When we think about the housing need in the city of Sheboygan, and there's been a lot of suggestions, changing permitting, changing ordinances in communities, making mixed-use spaces, different things along those lines. And there's been a lot of controversy around affordable housing or what people would consider low-income apartments, some of that in your particular district specifically. I would love to hear your thoughts on that and maybe what you've heard from constituents as you're out there campaigning, and what would be maybe 2 or 3 things that you would suggest we do moving forward if you are elected. Juan.
Well, that's an interesting question. I've heard a lot out in the community because I don't just talk to people now that I'm running for alderman, but I talk to people a lot all the time. And it's hard for them to perceive that we need as much housing development as we have. They have questions. How are you paying for it? How is the city bonding? How much are they bonding for? How is it affecting our credit rating? Why are there so many apartments, and what happens if they don't get rented? See, tenancy is a very mobile thing. People can be renting for 3 months and move the next day. They lose their job, they get married, they find a better place to live. Tenancy is volatile. So it's going to be hard to keep a full apartment complex full with tenants and hopefully make that TIF pay for itself. I know that there's a project now at the Garment property that's going to have, I think, 2,000 apartments. As I talk to people, their question is, where are the people coming from? We've never seen them here before. So even if it's not a good question to ask, it's a good question for the council to address. And that's what we need from the city council.
Yeah, you're right. This is a contentious item because, as Juan said, actually, it is. It's not something that you have a grasp on regular basis, right? Oh yeah, we talk about the housing crisis and so on, but I hear the same question. So people wonder about that. Now, the way I look at it is a couple of ways. One is, well, we had a study done, and in that study, if you look at the study in details, you will learn that the research was made with employers, right? And employers complained that they don't have enough housing. And at that time, there were not enough housing on the market, so the vacancy rate was considered too low. And one thing that I keep thinking of is that we have to introduce some type of measure at the level of the city administration to catch up with numbers, which could be even just call apartment building up to verify things. So in other words, I would like us to measure progress. So we are building more apartments, we are building more housing. It looks like that we need more, but we have to measure the progress. Because the reason we are in this situation, unfortunately, is that we are playing catch up. We didn't build up too much or enough before, and now we are, for good reasons too, because there was, the recessions, then the pandemic, and so on. But we need, if you base your judgment only on supply, demand, and prices of the current housing, you should deduct by just logically that there is not enough housing, right? Because the prices are high. However, I would like to have a measure on regular basis to verify how we are doing and track progress.
Thank you. And to dig just a little bit more into that as we talk about the need for housing, and it goes along with the economic development and the tourism, and we'll start with you, Alderperson Perrella. There's been a lot of conversation around short-term rentals in our neighborhoods, and for some it's a lucrative business and it totally makes sense, and then for others who might live in those communities it doesn't make any sense at all. It also does put an additional strain on our limited housing. So what measures do you think that Common Council should or could take in order to kind of help put the brakes on that a little bit, maybe some regulation, just create a set of rules that it doesn't just benefit the individuals who are making money on those short-term rentals, but also benefits the community and the neighborhoods in which they
Excuse me, what was the term you used?
Short-term rentals, like Airbnbs or Airbnbs and Verbos.
Right.
Yes. So.
Yeah, on that. First of all, I don't think that we have an exact numbers on how many those are, right? We think that it may be around 250 units. It may be many more, and the reason that we are not able to track those at the moment is because, in fact, many people may not pay room taxes on those businesses, and that is something that we cannot accept. And the reason I'm saying that is because if we have short-term rentals, at the very least, we should get the room tax that comes with it, because by being a business, the room tax is the one thing also to be competitive with other businesses, similar businesses. They all should be paying room tax, and that is one thing which we in any case want, right? And perhaps the number is also due, the presence of so many, it's also due to the fact that perhaps the demand for it is very high. So perhaps we should try to attract more hotel businesses. And with that, we are working on an ordinance right now to try to structure guidelines, and it is not final yet, so we can introduce some elements. I wouldn't go as far as increase the threshold of the numbers of days that they need to rent in order to be a short term. I wouldn't go that far. However, you are right. With that question, there is a problem in the sense that we have to try to find some guardrails for that to happen. And also, perhaps we should be able to engage those homeowners more directly as a city, which we could do, especially if we know all of them. We could have a campaign and reach out, because 200, even if there are only 250 units, it's a lot of units.
Thank you. Mr. Perez.
Thank you, Deidre. I'm still not, pardon me, but I'm still not quite sure what the question was, but I'll kind of follow with what Alderman Perrella said. The Airbnbs, from what I understand, are a way to circumvent the room tax and some of the code requirements and regulations and so forth. So I'm not sure what the council could do about that. Having that kind of a business is strictly temporary. I don't know that has any impact on anybody. I know there's some neighbors that complain about parking, complain about visiting, complain about partying and so forth. So I don't feel comfortable in my knowledge of that to really give you a good answer, so my apologies.
Thank you. Thank you for your honesty and transparency, which will lead us right into our next, transparency and communication. So looking at transparency and communication, many residents have expressed concerns about the perception of lack of responsiveness, and we talked a little bit about this early on, but we're not going to limit it to just being common council members. From city officials and within the departments, the feeling that the city is kind of operating in silos in some ways. And you had mentioned earlier, Juan, about some of the permitting, some of the ordinances, some of the barriers to access for businesses to move along, get the things that they need to be able to move along. So I would love to hear what you think would be some great action items that the Common Council could instill in the city departments effective immediately that would improve transparency, communication, and responsiveness between the city council members and the staff who are in fact doing the jobs every day. We'll start with you.
Well, I'm probably going to sound old-fashioned on this one, but the employees need to be responsive. They need to be accessible. Right now, you walk into City Hall, everything's locked, including the mayor's office. You make a telephone call, and you get transferred to all kinds of numbers to call. People don't feel that City Hall is theirs. And City Hall should be the taxpayers' property and home. They should be able to walk in there freely and talk to anybody. Well, they can't. Now, I know that there may be some concerns as far as security and so forth, but those concerns could be addressed a different way. Accessibility is crucial, especially during these times when people have questions about all the lawsuits that are occurring, all the outside lawyers that are being hired to address those lawsuits, all the settlements that are being made, all the associated costs with those settlements. They have questions about why are we taking property off the tax roll, converting it into a TIF, and we won't see the benefit to the tax base in 20, 30 years. They have questions, they want answers, and nobody seems to be giving them because they're not accessible. We can't put the onus on the resident to make us accessible. We have to do it ourselves. We have to find a way to go to the resident and talk to them and give them some straight answers. They may not like what we say, but give them some straight answers. Now, the council alderman, and I think I want to compliment Alderman Perrella. She's done a good job. But collectively, the council needs to come up with a better policy. Collectively, the council needs to address employees and tell them, make yourself accessible, make yourself responsive to the public. They're not doing it right now. I know that for a fact. And they may disagree with me, but I've made a lot of calls. And as I said, you walk into City Hall, everything's locked.
Thank you. Alder Perrella.
First of all, thank you for the kind words.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. Yes, there are many opportunities for improvement as far as the transparency and communication level of the city and city staff. I think that right now we are addressing actually addressing in particular the structure and the organization of DPW and the Department of Planning and Development. And those are the departments that actually, in my view, there is the most frequent contact and need from the public. Those need to be, and the quality of those services is, in my view, is still very high. The standard is high, but the level of the level and the quality of communication has to be improved. In particular, I'm thinking about the Department of Development and Planning and Development. And again, I really appreciate their work. They have been able to work even without a department head. They work very hard. Each interaction I've had with that department has been positive. However, if you are a business that tries to get things done fast, you may not think the same, right? And that is so streamlining work within those departments is very important for businesses and for residents. And again, I think it is true that we need to improve and streamline, and we are addressing that as of right now. As we just we just had a presentation at the Common Council, last Common Council, about the basically an assessment of the structure of both departments and to assess how to improve them, and how to improve them for the same employees and for the public. So not only for the public, but also for the well-being of the employees. That especially the Department of Public Works is a huge department, so it needs that.
Thank you. And digging a little bit deeper into staffing and transparency and communication over the past quite a few years now, the city of Sheboygan has, it has found itself in some difficult situations as it relates to hiring former employees, lawsuits, all of the things, and I won't get into the details. But I would love to hear your thoughts, Alder Perrella, on how moving forward we can assure our constituents that the leadership is just going to look different, and that we are not going to continue to find ourselves in these positions where we are spending a lot of time going through lawsuits and having difficult conversations and really not putting the time, energy, and effort into actually running the city that we need to.
Well, I feel the same, if it is of any consolation, because there was a moment a couple of years ago that it seemed that all what we were doing was to go from issue to issue, and it took a lot of hours and hours of our time and our energy also as other people. However, I stand by our positions at the time, and most importantly, I think that we have that behind us. I honestly think that our future is bright. We have been able to put people in place right now in this current administration that is professional, prepared, responsible, ethical, and I feel that we have come a long way. So I didn't feel comfortable then with things the way that they were right then. And I'm happy that we are behind that. I'm happy that we were able to overcome that. It took pain, it was difficult. So how do you do it? You have professional people working for you. That's important. We have to have departments heads that are responsible, ethical, responsive. We have a very good city administrator right now. What I mean with that is knowledgeable, professional, responsive. there is not much more that you can ask, and very development friendly. We have a very strong finance department, and we are going to fill the position of the planning and development head. So what I mean is, good people in place make a huge difference, and also make a huge difference for the older people who are the middlemen between the city staff and the residents, or at least that's the way I look at it. So quality of staffing.
Thank you. And Juan, although you've not been a part of the recent history, you have had, as you shared, significant experience in city government as mayor, formerly as an alder, formerly so on and so forth. So, looking at the current state of affairs, what assurances would you give to constituents that leadership might look a little bit different and that we may not continue to find ourselves in the same areas of hot water moving forward?
Well, no offense to Alderman Perrella, but if I get elected, it will be different. And if there's a change in mayor, it will be different. It's all, the council hired a city administrator. That city administrator is responsible for administrating, and that includes your employees. It's up to him. It's his responsibility to make sure that the staff that he supervises are responsive to the people, that they do their job, and not only as expected, but also as expected by the community. And unless that happens, and it may be that he's too busy, but you can't be so busy that you can't meet once a week or once a month and express how there's a need for this. Now, I know that other people have voiced a lot of these concerns, and I know that a lot of aldermen and even the mayor have said, we're listening. It makes you wonder if they really are, because nothing's changed, at least to an extent that you could determine that, yes, things are changing. So what would I do to assure the people that things are going to change as far as leadership changes? It's just, if I get elected, I'll bring a different perspective. I appreciate the perspective that Alderman Perrella has brought, but unfortunately, elections can be very discouraging and brutal. We have two good candidates. Only one of us can get elected. And the people have to make that choice. They have to make that choice by whatever reasons they decide to do it. And we, as citizens, accept that and respect that.
Thank you. And because we are getting close on time, I will ask for some closing comments. And Juan, if we can start with you for closing comments, and then we'll have you.
Well, Deidre, thank you again for inviting me, and thank you to the Sheboygan Public TV also for videotaping this. I'll finish by saying that the reason I ran for alderman is because I want to get involved. I see a lot happening in Sheboygan that I have a lot of questions about that I don't seem to get answers for. And I know there's a lot of people that want answers also. And I want to be accessible to those people and provide some of those answers. Even if I have to meet with them at the library, even if I have to meet with them at a restaurant, call a meeting once a month or whenever, and talk to people. Have them beat on me. Have them ask me questions. Have them be tough on me, because being an alderman is not just sitting down and listening to this and making decisions on an agenda. It requires a lot more. It requires some heart. It requires some attention to what people are saying, so that at some point they're satisfied with your performance and what you're doing. As I said before, though, it's unfortunate that only one of us can win, okay? And Alderman Perrella has done her job with heart. I know she has. I want to do my job with heart, but you have a choice. Only one of us can win. And I ask everyone that's watching to think about it. Make that decision. I'm first on the ballot when it comes to aldermanic decision, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you. Alder Perrella.
Thank you again, Deidre, for the great job, and I'm really delighted to meet Juan in person. I have not, actually I met him in person before, but I didn't know that it was my opponent. So I ran because I, just like Juan, I like to be involved. I don't like to sit on the sidelines. And most importantly, I like truly to give back to Sheboygan and to the United States. And it seems a little cheesy, but I feel kind of thankful to this country for the opportunities as I have had since I moved here. I truly appreciate that. And it is natural to feel that you want to give back. And my way to give back is to be involved with the city administration. I have though also a huge appreciation for the city administration in itself. I come from a culture where residents don't believe that government work for them, strangely enough. And I'm in awe of how better the American system works in that sense. And I am delighted to be part of that process. I want to be that facilitator. I love to be in contact with residents. I want to help them solve their problems when they reach out. That is actually the element I like the most of this role. I wish I could do it full time so that I could spend more time out there talking to everybody. Time is always an issue, but besides that, I think I have shown that I can do a good job, that I'm responsive, especially that I'm passionate about what I do. So I ask for your vote on April 1st. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to take a short break, and then we will return with candidates from the Sheboygan Falls School District so that we can get to know them. Again, thank you to WSCS for being our partners today and making this available. Thank you to all the Perrella and Mr. Perez for joining us for this conversation today. And just another PSA, this Friday at the Osthoff Resort in Elkhart, we do have a job fair from 12 to 3. There will be a couple of dozen actual local employers with on-site interviews available. So if you are looking for work in the Sheboygan County area, we welcome you. We'd love to see you. And it is free to all. So please join us. And there's more information at sheboygan.org if you'd like to learn more about that. Otherwise, we will see you very soon. Thank you so much.